Oops, wrong one here. What you're going to see here, this is now kind of the opposite of what we've been doing. It's not necessarily new information, but it's kind of the converse of what we've been doing, kind of switching some words around. Now what we're going to do is, let's say I tell you that we have alternate interior angles that are congruent. If that's the case, what that will now allow us to do is conclude that our lines are parallel. It used to be I give you parallel lines, and then you determine if their alternate interior angles are congruent. Now, if we know they're congruent, we know those lines have to be parallel. It's really kind of the same thing throughout. If alternate exterior angles are congruent, then that means the lines that are cut by the transversal have to be parallel. Same here. If corresponding angles are congruent, those lines are parallel. Same side interior angles, now those are supplementary. That means we're parallel. And same here. For supplementary, same side, lines are parallel. So here's what this means in terms of what we're looking at. So let's go to this problem here. So example number 1. It says which lines, if any, must be parallel if angle 1, so here's angle 1, is congruent to angle 2. So if we look at this, because notice now there are no, even though this line right here and this line right here look like they might be parallel, the two lines that appear to be horizontal look like they might be parallel. Notice how there are no little arrows drawn on those lines, because that's what we need to know that they are parallel normally. And I don't give you those, so you don't want to assume those. But what you are told is this angle and this angle are congruent. So what that would mean, if we kind of focus on where those angles are created, those angles are created by this line here and these two lines right here. So the fact that these are congruent, notice how these guys are what we call alternate interior angles. Well, the two lines that are being cut by the transversal are these two black lines that I have drawn in there. So see how we have A and M? So we're going to say that line AM, and we're going to put the little line notation above it, has to be parallel. That's our symbol for parallel, two slanted lines, to the other black line, which has the variables H, T. Those are the two lines that would have to be parallel, because those are the lines that are being cut by the transversal, whose alternate interior angles are going to be congruent. All right. Now, because I can, and hopefully that was enough time for you to get that, see it, and write it down, I'm going to erase these so that we can now focus on the other angles that you're given in letter B. So letter B tells you that angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary. So think about what those two angles were created by. They were created by these two lines, and those two lines are cut by this line. So that's our transversal. And what these angles are, think about what they are. Notice how there, if we talk about, here's the inside of these two possible parallel lines. 2 and 3 both lie on the exterior. They're on the same side of the transversal. So what that tells us is same side exterior angles are supplementary, and that would be if these two black lines, so this is A to T, so line A, T, would have to be parallel to line M, H. Oh, I should be justifying these also, by the way. So the reason for this one is same side exterior angles are supplementary. Okay. If we had justified the ones up here, these were the whole idea that alternate interior angles are congruent. So when it says justify, it's basically asking what type of angles are we dealing with that we did, the second half of last week. to justify that our lines are going to be parallel. Okay. All right, so if we go down to now example number 2, it asks, are lines A and B parallel? So it's asking, here's line A, here is line B, and then that would make this line here our transversal. So the question is, are these parallel? Because notice again, we don't have these arrows drawn in that allow us to say that they are in fact parallel. So the question would be, what kind of angles are these? And do they satisfy these conditions? So if we think about these as, here's the inside of my 2 parallel lines or possible parallel lines. So those are interior angles, and they are on the same side of the transversal. So what we're hoping for, because here's what should happen, same side interior angles, do this, angles, should be supplementary. So we now need to determine, is that actually true? So here's this angle here. Here is this angle here. Does 32 degrees plus 148 degrees, like they are supposed to, because supplementary means 180, do those equal 180 degrees? If they do, then yeah, we can conclude that those angles, or those 2 lines, would in fact be parallel. If they're not, then we would say no. So if we look at this, does 32 equal 148? The answer to that is yes. So we can get rid of that question mark, and we would say yes. And then we will just put in front of this, because same side interior angles are supplementary. All right, so now when we go to number 2, here's lines A and B. So A, B, and then we are cut by our transversal here. And then what you're told is that angle 148 and angle 148, those are the same. And then we want to know, is that enough information to conclude that those 2 lines, A and B, are congruent? All right, so Ahmed, you're shaking your head no. Why, Ahmed? Good. Good. So these 4 angles are made by just the black line and the red line. In order for us to be able to conclude any sort of parallel nature to those other 2 lines, we would need some information about these 4 angles that are created by the other line and our transversal. And then we would need to know the same side interior, alternate exterior, all those different things that we've been talking about. There'd have to be a relationship between one of these sets of angles, one of the ones in the yellow, one of the ones in the blue, and then it would have to satisfy one of the 5 conditions that we've been working on here this last week. All right, so because of this, we would say no. And then really what we really just have here, because those 148 degree angles are just, no fancy word, are just vertical angles. They're not any of the 5 things that allow us to compare parallel lines. Vertical angles can't be used to justify any sort of parallel nature between 2 different lines. Okay. All right, so that's what that now gets at. So now let's actually kind of do some problems that you're going to see that we're going to give you, although I'll give you some of those on the front page, but now we start introducing some variables. So what this is just saying, it's just worded differently. It's very, very much like what we did Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week. So find the value of x in this case. That would make the given lines parallel. So if this is our transversal, what would x have to be to ensure that line L and line M are parallel to each other? So what we have to understand is, if these are the 2 angles that you were given to work with, so shake out the cobwebs again here, because we haven't talked about these yet. Don't say it, but see if you remember what type of angles those are. So are those same side interior, same side exterior, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or are they corresponding? Don't say it, just think it through real quick. So now if I ask you what kind of those are, the only 5 things we can use, so let's go back to this. This is also why vertical angles didn't work. We're looking for these 5 things that I have highlighted in yellow. So we kind of refresh our memory on all of those vocabulary words that we left off with. Of these 5 kinds of angles, we want to identify what these 2 angles are. All right. What do we think? What kind of angles are these of the 5 options that we have? Yeah, Cam? Good. So those are corresponding angles. And then do you remember, Cam? Corresponding angles are what? Supplementary or congruent? Congruent. So because they are congruent, the only way these would be parallel is if the 2x plus 6 was equivalent to the 40. Solve that. So we get our 2x equals 34. Divide by 2. If x equals 17, that would ensure that our corresponding angles are congruent. That would guarantee that the line L and the line M are parallel. All right. Same exact thing with letter B. We have to look at the 2 angles that are created when the 2 lines are cut by this transversal. So we now want to identify what kind of angles are these. The previous one over here, we said they were corresponding. So now, are these corresponding? Are they alternate interior, exterior, same side interior, same side exterior, all that good stuff. So first identify them. All right, and of those 5 options, what kind of angles do we think those are? Kim? Good. Here's the inside of our possible parallel lines. They're on the same side of the transversal. So what we know is same side interior angles are, if I fill in the blank here, even though I run out of room a little bit. All right, those are what, Kim? Good. So these are supplementary. So what would have to be true is the 7x minus the 8 added to the 62 better equal 180 degrees in order for these 2 lines to be parallel. And then from there, again, we should be pretty efficient at solving these equations at this point. You'll obviously be doing a bunch of that on Friday. So combine your like terms. So negative 8 plus 62 is 54. Subtract your 54 over. So that is what? 126. Ooh, is that going to go in good? So x goes in there 18? Yeah, so we should get x equal 18. All right. So it's worded differently. It's really just more of the same stuff that we did last week. All right, so now this one. See what you think here. There's a lot going on here. Similar to that little exit quiz that I gave you on Friday. When there's a lot going on, it's easy to get lost in this. So kind of look at what's marked and try to identify what kind of angles you're given and then see what you think. And I'd be impressed if we get it, if we kind of understand the process here. Yeah, what do you think, Kim? Just a thought. What do you think? Maybe. So when you say that, are you saying that this angle here and this angle over here, those are vertical angles? Yep. Okay, because these guys aren't vertical. Okay, but that's something we may want to use to be able to get this going. So let's look at the two lines that concern us right now. So this middle line is just in there to distract you. So don't let me trick you that way. We're created by these two lines here, line L and M, and then this transversal. So if we look at the two angles created by those, so this angle here and this angle here, notice how we're inside of the two lines. So this angle is inside, oops, but the other angle is not. So there none of the interior ideas we could use. Notice how they're not on the same side either. They're alternate, but they're not inside or outside. If we go through the list of 5 options we have, none of them apply right now. Correct? None of them apply. But if we use Cam's idea of a vertical angle, couldn't we say, if I now look at this line right here, couldn't I say that this angle right here, so let me get rid of some of the shading here. Don't we know that this angle has to be 105 degrees also? And if I now focus on these guys, this angle and this angle, aren't these now both inside of the possible parallel lines and on the same side of the transversal? So these are same side interior angles. Same side interior angles are supplementary. So what that would mean has to be true is 105 would equal 3x minus 18. And that's really only one way. There's a couple different routes you could take. But since Cam threw out that vertical angle idea, we use that. Now we can solve that equation. Okay. So 3x is going to equal, what is that, 123. Divide, and we should get 41. So x would be 41. All right, good with that. That's tricky stuff there. It's not easy. All right, next sets. Not a lot of work here. It just says, yeah, Cam. Oh, shoot. Good call, Cam. I saw you looking all confused. And I was like, what's he? Shoot, there you go. Call me out sooner than that, Cam. Yeah, I mean, no, you check me. You check me. All right. Yeah, supplementary, right? So I'm saying it, and then I'm being silly. See, everybody gets a little foggy after a long break. Supplementary means we want to be taking those guys, adding them together, and setting them equal to a 180. Yeah, that's much better. Exactly, right? Ahmed. All right, so let's combine some terms here. Oh gosh, what is 105 minus 18? So that is 87. Yeah. All right, and then divide, and we should get what, 29? No, yeah, man. I got you, Cam. I got you. Keep your eye on me this morning, Cam. Yeah, so this is going to be 87 equals 180. There, we'll get there eventually. See, it's hard on all of us to log in this morning. So then the 3x would equal, let's try this again, 93. All right, now I'm pretty sure we're good. For the third time's a charm here, x should be 31. All right, good. That's right, Cam. That is correct. It's a good analogy. All right, number 4. These will be quicker, where we can just kind of hammer some of these out real quick here in the next 5 minutes. It says, using given information, which lines, if any, can you conclude are parallel? So if we look at these, find angle 2 and angle 3. So angle 2 and angle 3 are created by line A, line B, and then what our transversal would be is this line. So the fact that those are supplementary It's going to say, can you conclude it? Your answer to this one is yes, because they are same side interior, and those are supplementary. So it satisfies one of our 5 conditions for this. All right. All right, let's go to the next couple. Measure of angle 10 and angle 6. So those angles are created by this as your transversal, and then these 2 lines. Oh wait, I gotta actually write down what they are. So for this one, 2 and 3, you would say that line A is parallel to line B, because those are the same side interior. Okay. For here, the lines that have to be parallel, look at the ones that I have shaded in black. L and M have to be parallel. So L is parallel to M. And that is because, aren't these guys now also same side interior? They're inside of the black lines and on the same side of our transversal. So the exact same justification as the previous one. All right. If we go to angles 9 and 1 and they're congruent, so here's 9, here is 1. So they are created by these 2 lines. So we're going to look to see are L and M parallel. Those are the 2 lines that we're testing. Those are cut by this line. So if we look at how do these guys relate to each other, are they alternate interior, corresponding, and all that good stuff? Aren't those corresponding angles? They're both the upper left-hand corner of these 4. And corresponding angles are congruent. So because of that, since that's what this is saying, that angle 9 is in fact congruent to angle 1, then that would confirm that line L is parallel to line M. And then because corresponding angles are congruent. All right, let's get one more done real quick here. All right, so the last one, next one, 4 and 11 are congruent. So here's angle 4. Here is angle 11. So now think about how these angles are formed. This angle is formed by this line and this line, but then angle 11 is formed by this line and this line. So notice how they're not formed by the same 3 lines. They're each formed by 2 separate lines right there. So this is one. Notice how this says, if any, in our directions, which lines, if any, are parallel. In this case, we would say none. We couldn't make any conclusions about these because we don't have 2 lines cut by a single transversal. Those are each created by 2 completely separate lines. Okay. Okay, the next page was just some more of these. Just kind of go through with the same exact idea. There's not a whole lot different. I think there's really nothing new in this section overall. So your homework, if you jump to page, what is that, page 69 where it says 5.6, you're just going to do those 2 pages. So numbers 1 through, this will stop freezing on me, 1 through 11. Yeah, just 1 through 11 there. And then tomorrow, if you have any questions, ask. Tomorrow, we're going to do a review over 5.3 to 5.6. If you want a hard copy of that printed off, it's on Canvas right now. We'll review tomorrow all of it, and then we're going to do a bigger quiz, a full period quiz on Friday. Okay? Okay, if Ahmed was on his game today, and I'm off my game today too, Ahmed, so don't feel bad. He would have already rung the bell, and we would be on our way to second period. So take off. We'll see you guys. All right. Hope you had a good weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. What, Ahmed? All righty. We'll see you tomorrow.